After 3 incredible nights, billionaire husband's hidden surprise was exposed by his touching maid. Clara had never imagined she would be standing in a lavish ballroom, draped with silk and shimmering chandeliers, surrounded by people draped in finery that she only saw in dreams. Yet here she was, serving drinks at a charity gala hosted by the billionaire Henry Wright. Her heart raced as his blue eyes locked onto hers, warmth radiating from him like the summer sun. In those fleeting moments, she felt as if she were more than just a maid. For 3 nights she had glimpsed a world bursting with laughter, elegance, and generosity, a stark contrast to her daily grind back home. Each time she entered the Wright estate, an opulence beyond comprehension enveloped her, a swirl of laughter, clinking glasses, and music lifting her spirits. Inside, she felt the warmth of acceptance, and for the first time, she dared to dream of what it could be like to be part of something larger than life. Yet, the thought always returned. Who was she really? Just a maid with a heart full of family loyalty, working tirelessly to provide for her siblings. But through the glitz, Clara began to uncover layers of Henry Wright she never anticipated. During a secluded moment in the garden, he shared his vision of a charity foundation dedicated to uplifting families struggling like hers. Her admiration initially soared, yet shadows crept in, a tightness in her chest that echoed with the truth of their vast socioeconomic divide. She couldn't shake the feeling of being the outsider, the help who would always stay below the glittering surface, while those wealthy families danced effortlessly above. As the evening progressed, Clara stood transfixed by Henry's speech, his voice cutting through her discontent. He spoke of despair in communities like hers, emphasizing hope and change. Tears brimmed in Clara's eyes. She saw the truth in his gaze, a yearning to uplift but also a haunting resignation as he remained shackled by societal expectations. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With newfound determination, Clara grasped the weight of her own silence as a burden. She wanted to speak up, to confront Henry about the glaring disparities she faced daily with her community. But fear clawed at her heart. As she gathered courage, whispers of her family's past arose, weaving a thread that tied them to Henry's foundation. This revelation sent a shiver down her spine. What did this mean for her? Clara's world shifted dramatically as she faced a crossroads. Should she risk her job and her comfort to shout from the rooftops about the injustices she witnessed? Or would she retreat back into the shadows of servitude? Emotions swirled, a tightness in her throat, a pang in her heart, threatening to drown out her own voice. In a moment of vulnerability, she realized she stood on the brink of something truly transformative. Would she step into her own power, or remain a silent observer in Henry Wright's magnificent world? Clara stood by the edge of the ballroom, her heart pounding in time with the orchestra's lively tempo. The laughter and chatter around her swirled like a dizzying dance, but all she could focus on was the man at the podium. Henry Wright's passionate words reverberated in her chest, igniting a spark she thought she'd buried deep within her. "Together we can change lives," he exclaimed, his voice ringing clear. The audience erupted in applause, and Clara felt a rush of emotions surge within her. What did he truly mean by that? Did he see, even for a moment, the struggles that choked her community? The thought of stepping out of her comfort zone sent shivers down her spine, igniting both fear and an overwhelming desire to voice her truth. As the gala continued, Clara found herself drifting through the crowd, her tray of drinks now forgotten in her hands. She noticed the lavishness that surrounded her. Each person wore the kind of confidence that came with privilege. Their laughter carried the weight of assurance while she felt increasingly invisible. Then, from behind a pillar, she caught Henry's eye. As if drawn by an invisible thread, he approached her, his expression warm but intense. "Clara," he said gently, "you seem lost in thought. Is everything all right?" The sincerity in his question took her breath away. Clara felt the walls she had built around her heart start to crack. I faced many struggles before I came here. My family relies on me. Sometimes I wonder if all of this," she gestured to the extravagant affair around them, "makes a difference to people like us." His gaze softened and he stepped closer, his voice a mere whisper. "You're not just a maid, Clara. You have a voice, and the power to make a difference." His words hung between them, pregnant with possibility. A wave of courage washed over her. Maybe this was the moment to share the truth that had been weighing her down. Yet, before she could answer, shouts erupted from across the ballroom. A commotion caught everyone's attention. Clara turned to see a group of well-dressed guests arguing, the tension palpable. Whispers raced through the crowd like wildfire. "Did you hear what she said? That's scandalous." Clara's instincts kicked in. She had to know what was happening. She pushed through the throng, determined to understand the chaos. When she reached the front, she saw a woman standing defiantly, her cheeks flushed with anger. "We can't just ignore the realities that people face," she shouted, her voice ringing clear. "The foundation is built on a lie." The room fell silent, every eye fixated on her. Clara felt a mix of shock and admiration. Here was someone just like her, ready to speak out. Henry stepped forward, his expression a mix of surprise and concern. "Please, let's keep this civil," he urged, but Clara felt a fire ignite within her. In that moment, she realized it was now or never. The yearning for change that had filled her heart for so long surged forth, pushing the boundaries of fear aside. "What if we hear her out?" Clara called, her voice breaking the thick silence, eyes locked on Henry. Henry turned towards Clara, a flicker of surprise crossing his features. "Clara, are you sure?" Clara nodded, her heart raced, but this was her chance. The weight of her silence was not just hers to bear anymore. Perhaps, just perhaps, she could help bridge the gap between their worlds. As the tension in the room thickened, she prepared to take a stand for everything she'd endured, her voice finally louder than the whispers of doubt. But what would this moment mean for her? Would she be met with understanding or pushback? Stepping forward from the crowd, she felt the stakes rise higher than ever before. Clara's heart raced as she stepped forward. The air felt electrified, as if they were all holding their breath. The eyes of the crowd were drawn to her, anticipation hanging like a weight. She was no longer just a spectator. She was part of a story that was waiting to unfold. Behind her, Henry's gaze bore into her, fierce yet uncertain. She could see the conflict play out on his face. Clara's throat tightened as she grasped for the right words. She thought of her mother, of the early mornings spent cleaning up after spills and cooking meals for their small family. Those memories flooded her mind, reminding her of the resilience they had developed through their struggles. The woman from before seemed ready for her chance to continue. "There are families like Clara's being suffocated under the weight of apathy," she exclaimed, fueling Clara's fire. "They need support, real support. The kind that doesn't just build glamorous galas but helps lift people out of poverty." As Clara stood there, the realization of her own vulnerability struck her. What if she didn't do this right? What if the crowd turned against her? Yet, a voice inside pushed her forward. "I want to understand, too. What can we do to make a real difference?" She found herself shouting, feeling the strength in her own voice. Gasps rippled through the crowd. People exchanged glances, some nodding in agreement, but others looked uneasy, their faces clouded with disbelief. Clara's words hung in the air as silence spilled back into the ballroom, making the moment feel even more monumental. She glanced at Henry, searching for a sign of support. Instead, she found him watching, contemplative and guarded. His silence sent a quick pang of doubt through her, but she fought to ground herself. She wasn't here for him. She was here to speak up for everyone who felt voiceless. "That's right," Henry finally said, breaking his stillness. "We have to challenge ourselves to look beyond the glitter and see what lies beneath." His tone was steady. Clara could sense a shift in the atmosphere, the possibility of change begin to ripple through the crowd. "We must invest in genuine initiatives that create lasting impacts." A murmur of agreement traveled through the audience. Clara felt a surge of hope. Maybe this was the moment to ignite something greater than herself, a spark that might resonate with others. The woman's face lit up, as if she were basking in newfound support. Exactly. It's time we face the truths of our community, not just the truths we want to hear. She raised her hand, encouraging a wave of nods and murmured support from the crowd. Clara felt a warmth rise within her, a sense of camaraderie growing amidst the tension. Yet not everyone shared the sense of possibility. A sharp voice cut through, filled with bitterness. And what would a maid know about making real changes? A man stepped forward, his arrogance oozing from every word. Clara's heart sunk momentarily. Silence fell again, the hope she'd worked to build threatened by his disdain. But then, inspiration struck. "I know what it's like to struggle," Clara said, her voice steady now. "I know what it means to dream of a better life and not have the resources to fight for it. This isn't just about the wealthy helping the less fortunate. It's about understanding each other's experiences and working to lift each other up." Something shifted in the room. Faces that had been turned away now looked towards her, as if seeing her for the first time. Henry stepped closer to her, his presence a shield against the negativity. "Let's not dismiss voices like Clara's. Let's listen, and let's act." As approval began to ripple through the crowd, Clara soaked in fleeting glances of acceptance. She felt a fire in her belly grow stronger. Perhaps asking for help wasn't a sign of weakness. Perhaps it was a call for community, for unity. But just as Clara thought they might break down barriers, the tension returned when the man spoke again, this time with venom. "You'll regret this, Clara. People like us don't change for people like you." Chills crept up her spine as the threat lingered in the air. Clara realized this was only the beginning. Not everyone would welcome change with open arms. The spotlight was on, the stakes higher than ever. Would she find her courage to push forward, fighting for those left behind, or would fear drag her back into silence? As the music turned soft, the crowd's mixed emotions simmered, leaving her uncertain of what this moment would really mean. Clara knew she'd have to hold on tightly to hope to navigate the storm ahead. What would her next move be? Clara stood frozen, the man's words echoing in her mind. Regret? She felt a surge of defiance. How dare he? She had stepped out, offered her voice, and now faced this kind of intimidation. It ignited something deep within her. She had fought every day for a better life, for her mother's legacy, and she wouldn't let him take that from her. With every ounce of courage she had, Clara took a deep breath and spoke directly into the void that had formed. "I stand here today, not just as a maid, but as someone who wants to change the narrative. If you're threatened by that, then it's time for you to take a good hard look at yourself." Gasps floated around the room mixed with whispers. Faces that wore frowns were suddenly reflecting a range of emotions. Was it shock? Understanding? She couldn't tell, but she could feel the weight of their collective gaze pressing against her. Henry leaned in, his voice a quiet beacon in the growing tension. "Let's remember, change starts with us. We can't just point fingers. We have to acknowledge the flaws within our society, and those of us who have power must use it responsibly." Clara turned her head slightly towards him. His steadfastness gave her hope. Perhaps there was a chance for understanding after all. She found strength in both their voices, realizing they were now united against something bigger than themselves. But that shift soon met another challenge. The man scoffed. "And what makes you think this isn't just a fleeting moment of bravado? You think these people here will care tomorrow? They'll forget what you said as soon as they step out of this ballroom." Her heart sank a little at his words. Was he right? Would the crowd simply return to their glamorous lives, dismissing her plea as nothing more than a passing spectacle? But then a louder voice emerged from the space. The earlier woman, whose passion still burned bright. "Don't you see?" she shouted, face flushed with determination. "Change isn't about the fleeting noise. It's about moments like this that start conversations. It's the seeds of those conversations that grow into lasting movements." Clara could feel it now, a stirring within the crowd. Murmurs cascaded back and forth, the tone shifting, a palpable energy thrumming in the air. That flicker of hope ignited again, pushing her forward. "I want to be part of this change," Clara continued, her voice breaking through hesitation. "We need to create bonds Build bridges between those who have and those who have not. We need unity, not division. Together, we can empower each other. Before she knew it, Clara's mind raced, pulling in the momentum that was building. She wanted to scream it from the rooftops. People were waking up. Eyes shifting, heads nodding, the realization dawning that they couldn't turn their backs on those in need. But then, a shadow loomed at the edge of her heart. What if this wasn't enough? Behind her, she heard a low whisper from someone in the crowd. She doesn't know the struggles we face. She's never tasted the world's true harshness. Clara almost faltered at that, a nagging doubt creeping in again. But this was her moment. She couldn't retreat. If you allow fear to dictate your choices, she called back, searching the myriad of expressions that surrounded her, then nothing will ever change. I may not be an expert, but I live this life every day, and I am willing to learn, to fight, to change. A swell of emotion gripped her voice, rising and falling as she spoke. In that moment, she was not just a voice. She was a vessel of hope. And then she saw Henry, standing firm, a smile breaking through his worry as he stepped closer again. Let's not just hear her. Let's act. Let's commit right now, he said, his voice stronger than ever. But the man didn't relent, scoffing again. You think a few pretty words will make change happen? Let's be realistic here. The crowd shifted again, uncertainty lingering, but Clara felt something building. She wouldn't back down, because what if these words were more than just empty promises? What if they could weave a new story, a shared story? She raised her arm, fist clenched tightly. We've all felt the weight of silence and apathy, but it doesn't have to be this way. Let's create a narrative of courage, together. As her heart thundered in her chest, she could see people aligning with her, faces lighting up with the possibility of hope, unity forming on the fringes of doubt. But the man's next words clashed violently as he leaned in closer, a smirk stretching across his lips. And when it all falls apart, Clara, remember this moment. The game is just beginning. Her pulse quickened, and with the air crackling around her, Clara wondered if they truly understood the storm they were about to unleash, or if all she had ignited would be snuffed out as quickly as it had started. Could she hold them together against the wave of resistance still looming on the horizon? Clara felt the weight of the man's words settle like a thick fog, trying to wrap around her spirit, but she refused to let it crush her resolve. Inside that ballroom, a tempest of emotions swirled. People whispered behind cupped hands, stealing glances, and with each quiet murmur, Clara's heart raced. What if her fervor faded into a mere echo? The thought chilled her, but then she looked around and caught sight of the woman who had spoken earlier, the one whose voice had reinforced Clara's determination. She stood there, her eyes alight with purpose, the corner of her mouth lifting slightly as if to say, "We're in this together." That was all Clara needed. "Listen," Clara called out again, this time her voice ringing clearer and more assured. "I know this isn't easy. Change isn't handed to us on a silver platter. We must fight for it. We must risk looking foolish for the sake of a better future." Her own words ignited a spark within her, firming her stance. Henry stepped closer, urgency filling his voice. A real commitment starts here. In moments like this, the moment when we refuse to be silenced. The crowd shifted again, a ripple of energy building among them. Faces that were once hardened started to soften. Clara pushed onward, her heart pounding like a drum. This isn't just about me or my struggles, it's about all of us. If we all speak up, if we all join together, then maybe we can shatter the chains that hold us back. Her fists clenched tighter, and she could feel adrenaline coursing through her. The courage of her convictions wrapped around her like armor. Suddenly, a voice rose from the back, trembling but fierce. What if the ones who hold the power just laugh at us? A woman, dressed in a sparkling gown, glanced nervously at her companions, yet determination seeped through the cracks of her uncertainty. What do we do then? Clara met her gaze, driven by the struggle inside her heart. Then we laugh right back. What we're doing here has the potential to connect us. Those who matter won't look away, they will see us. They will listen. Gradually, more voices chimed in, weaving into the fabric of Clara's plea. Their hesitations dissolved like sugar in warm water, leaving a sweet veil of unity that seemed to wrap around everyone present. Clara could feel the tide rising, the undercurrent of hope building momentum. Together we can cite our stories. Each voice amplifies the other. Each story lays the foundation for change. Clara's words rolled out, smooth and bold. We can shape a community that refuses to be divided by wealth or status. The man in the corner, face twisting in disdain, sneered, "And what makes you think this will last? You're nothing but a maid, dreaming too big for her station." Clara held his gaze steady. "And you're a coward to hide behind your money and privilege. It's not my title that will create change, but the truth of our shared experience." A tangible silence filled the room. For a moment, even the whispers faded. Clara saw eyes widen, heard breaths intake sharply. Had she pushed them too far? Then, a ripple of applause broke through, a soft clap at first, then growing into a chorus as more joined in. It was a rhythm of defiance, a cadence of solidarity. Clara felt it rush over her like warm sunlight. This was more than a gathering, it was the beginning of something revolutionary. Yet as the sound enveloped her, she caught a glimpse of the man's disappointment. He would not be an easy opponent. Against the growing swell of support around her, she felt a tremor of fear. If she had awakened a sleeping giant, would it retaliate? But instead of retreating into doubt, she stood firm. She had lived this struggle. She understood it intimately. "Let's keep this fire burning. We need our voices, we need our hearts," she cried. "And together, we'll forge ahead through the darkness." As the cheers erupted, Clara noticed something shift in the man, the mask of disdain falling away, revealing something darker. He was more than just a foe. He was the gatekeeper of a world resistant to the change they sought. How would they navigate that looming confrontation? In that moment of heightened emotions, uncertainty began to crawl near Clara's chest. Had she stirred the beast, or had she sparked their revolution? Only time would tell, and as she met the growing energy of the crowd once more, she couldn't help but wonder if their courageous step forward was the first of many, or if catastrophe awaited. As the applause echoed around her, Clara clenched her fists tighter, ready to face whatever came next. But deep down, she knew. They were about to uncover the complexities that lay beyond this initial wave. Would all this hope stand strong against the tide of reality lurking beyond the ballroom doors? The noise of the crowd swirled like a whirlwind, enveloping Clara in an electrifying cocoon of energy. Cheers bounced off the ornate walls of the ballroom, cascading back like waves, and for a moment, she lost herself in the euphoria. But then, the euphoric haze cleared slightly as she locked eyes with the man again. His smile was gone, replaced by a sneer that cut deeper than she cared to admit. Behind his elegant veneer lay a dark determination. That unyielding expression echoed a warning. He wouldn't take her challenge lightly. Henry felt her tension. He stepped closer, lowering his voice just for her. "Are you okay?" Clara nodded, though her mind raced. The applause faded, but the heartbeat of fear continued. "I won't back down. I can't," she whispered, haunted by a mix of resolve and dread. As she scanned the room again, she saw many faces brimming with fresh hope. But she also caught the glint of a few eyes dulled by skepticism, the jaded core that had been conditioned to accept the status quo. Suddenly, she recalled her own past, those moments when doubt had once trickled in, almost making her forget her own worth. She had to push their limits further. Something monumental was brewing, and she needed them with her. "Let's build on this," she said, her voice resonating like a bell, cutting through residual whispers. "This isn't it. This is just the beginning. We need to share our stories. Right here. Right now." Louder murmurs permeated the crowd. Clara, emboldened, approached the nearest group and gestured them forward. "Come on, who wants to share?" One by one, familiar faces stepped into the spotlight. The woman in the sparkling gown began, her voice quavering but strong, recounting a struggle that Clara had never known. As she spoke, others joined in, sharing tales of hardships, of inequality, and of heartache. Each story intertwined like threads in a tapestry, forming an intricate picture of resilience. Clara's heart swelled. This was what she envisioned, connections forged through shared experiences. But as the momentum grew, she noticed the man shifting restlessly, summoning more people to his side. He was gathering forces, creating his storm. "Listen," he shouted, his voice cutting through the rising tide of hope. "These stories are nothing but empty words. The real world doesn't care about your struggles. The powerful don't listen to the weak." For a brief moment, a hush fell over the assembly. Clara's stomach churned as she felt that fear creeping back. What if he was right? But then she closed her eyes, pulled herself together, and remembered the warmth of the community that had gathered. Their spirit surged through her, casting doubt aside. "What if the powerful do care?" Clara shouted back, her voice fueled by fire. "What if they listen to our unity? If we stand together, we can reshape their perceptions. Change starts with a spark, and we are the match." The energy in the room shifted again. You could see individuals rallying behind the thought that perhaps they held the power after all. The power of shared humanity, together lighting the way to change. But as more people began to speak, she saw the man's eyes narrowing into slits. His posture shifted, something dark swirling beneath the surface, something menacing. "Whatever you think you're building here," he shot back, icy resolve punctuating his words, "it won't last. You're nothing but a flicker against the flames of the elite." Clara took a deep breath. She could feel her own heart racing, the stakes rising. These moments, this gathering, felt monumental. But were they merely spurring a greater storm? As she looked at the crowd, faces lined with hope, fear clawed at her heart again. What lay ahead now that she had awakened the beast? And that's when she spotted the glimmer from the corner of the ballroom. A hidden door, slightly ajar. What was beyond its threshold? Would it lead to their salvation or their undoing? Clara's mind raced with possibilities as the crowd echoed her heartbeats around her, each pulse asking the same question. How far were they willing to go to claim their futures? The crowd moved rhythmically around Clara, an electric current of tension coursing through. But her focus remained locked on that hidden door. Shadows danced along its edges, whispering secrets that called to a part of her yearning for answers. "Stay with me," Henry said, gripping her arm lightly. She felt steady, grounded by his presence, yet the desire to explore that door tugged insistently at her heart. "What if there's something important back there?" Clara murmured, uncertainty brewing within her. "Clara, we have to rally these people first. Don't let him shatter the momentum," he urged, nodding toward the man still standing defiantly amidst the throng. But the fluttering thrill of curiosity drowned out her thoughts. What if the door held a path leading to something greater, something transformative that could strengthen their cause? Taking a quick breath, she turned back to the crowd, the voices echoing in the air, filled with stories and healing. "We're not alone," she shouted, her voice large enough to reach everyone. "We're stronger than any threats made. Our stories will move mountains." Henry's eyes gleamed. "That's it, Clara. Lead them." Encouraged, Clara called out for more voices, stepping further toward the tension-filled atmosphere. Stories spilled forth like a torrent, trials and triumphs shared freely, and for a moment, she forgot about the man's threats. They were building something beautiful, even in the face of adversity. But her gaze would drift back to that door. What if it was a means to show evidence of real change, the kind of change that these people desperately needed to see? Perhaps they could take one step further, beyond mere words. "Listen," Clara suddenly beckoned, feeling the crowd's gaze shift to her, drawn by an undeniable heat in her voice. "We need to combine our stories with action. If there's a hidden truth, let's find it." The room buzzed with murmurs of agreement. Yet shadows loomed not just in the corner, but in the hearts of some. Clara caught a glimpse of doubt on certain faces, unfamiliarity with bold moves scrawled across their expressions. She could feel those doubts lurking just beneath the surface. "Let's make our voices heard and not just hear," she shouted, catching glimpses of those who had stood against their struggles. "What if we went beyond this ballroom? 10 minutes. Just 10 minutes behind that door might uncover the truth we need." "What truth?" A skeptical voice shot from the back. The man with the sneer smirked. "You think that door can change anything? You think you're ready to face reality?" Clara's heart drummed in her chest as she sensed the crowd shift again. The flicker of hope struggled against the vanity of disdain. It felt like a tightrope, a balancing act between belief and apprehension. "While we wait, will you let your words remain stagnant?" she urged, addressing the crowd directly. "Feel the pulse of change in this very moment. Stories have walls, they give strength. If you want change, if you believe in it, are you too afraid to take that step?" A mix of excitement and remnants of doubt vibrated in the air. In that brief lull, she sensed that the crowd was wavering. Some eyes lit with determination, while others still hid behind uncertainty. Then, a firm voice broke through the murmurs. "I'll go with you." A tall man stepped forward, his eyes burning bright with resolve. One by one, others joined in, supported by the weight of their collective story. Clara felt the energy swell, their collective heartbeat now harmonizing into a resonance that challenged the dark forces against them. But as they surged toward the door, a low, mocking laugh met their determination. "You really think this will end well? You're stepping into shadows, my friends. You'll only get lost in your hopes." His words clawed at the edges of her courage. She drew in a shaky breath, forcing herself forward. They were on the precipice of something pivotal. The light from the door beckoned, promising unknown adventures. But what lurked within? With every heartbeat, the curiosity twinged painfully. Would this lead to their liberation or their undoing? The moment they pushed through that threshold, would they unravel the tapestries of their own truths, or find themselves forever transformed? Clara glanced at the others. Determination danced in their eyes. This was it, the moment that could shatter the very fabric in that room. Would they seize it, or let uncertainty claim victory? As they moved toward that door, a bolt of excitement surged through her. Along with their fears, they would find strength in unity. Would this be the leap of faith they needed? Would they re-emerge into the light, or would they succumb to the shadows? They crossed the threshold, each heartbeat echoing a question. What awaited them on the other side? As the last figure stepped through the door, Clara felt an exhilarating rush. The air inside was different, thicker, charged with a palpable energy almost electric in its intensity. The crowd pushed in behind her, a flowing stream of hope and purpose, eager to discover what lay beyond. The world beyond the door was dim, illuminated only by the flickering light of a single lantern hanging from the ceiling. Clara squinted, her eyes adjusting as she took in the surroundings. The walls were lined with faded photographs, capturing moments in time. Smiles that spoke of triumphs, faces marked by passion, and glances that hinted at hidden stories. It was a gallery of dreams, a testament to resilience. "What is this place?" someone whispered, breaking the silence. Clara moved closer to the nearest photo. It depicted a group of people raising their hands in unison, joy radiating from their faces. I think these are the stories we spoke about," she replied, her heart pounding with discovery. "They represent our struggles and victories. This is our collective past." More bodies pressed forward, studying the images, and a sense of belonging began to swell within the group. Clara was invigorated by the shared quest. They were no longer just individuals fighting their battles. They were a community woven together by a shared history. But as the excitement bubbled, Clara's mind flashed back to the man outside. His laughter echoed in her thoughts, a reminder of lingering doubt. Would knowing this history strengthen their resolve or expose fractures in their unity? She dared to hope that their stories would embolden them, not diminish them. "Gather around," Clara called out, her voice steadying as she waved everyone closer. "We need to decide how to share our truth. Here we can find the words that will ignite change." The crowd buzzed with energy. Some picked up small framed photos, others began recounting tales when they paused to reflect on the images. Clara sensed the shift. Doubt was gradually being replaced by a shared yearning for something better. Then, a voice soft yet strong broke through. "What if we used these stories to inspire others? Sharing them will show how much we've overcome." It was the tall man from earlier, his excitement contagious. "Yes," Clara nodded, her spirit ignited. "We can showcase our history and empower others who feel invisible. It's more than just words, it's about action. Together, we can reach hearts far beyond this ballroom." The group rallied around her idea, their anticipation burgeoning like a crescendo. Each person had a piece of the puzzle, and igniting their collective voice, felt like setting off fireworks. The flicker of doubt that lingered in their minds was beginning to spark with determination. But just as elation began to radiate, shadows danced at the periphery of Clara's vision. A sudden chill swept through the space. She turned back to the photos, noticing one stood out. It was a face she hadn't seen before, unfamiliar, yet piercing. The expression caught her. It was a mix of joy and sorrow, layers of stories behind those eyes. Clara's pulse quickened. "Who is this?" she breathed, reaching out to touch the frame, and as her fingers brushed the glass, the air shifted. The lantern flickered wildly, casting strange shadows on the walls, as if the room held its breath. A torrent of emotion surged through her. Was this an omen of clarity or confusion? The individuals around her were now watching her closely, sensing the change in atmosphere. Clara felt the weight of their hopes resting on her shoulders. "Are we ready to uncover what this means?" she challenged, curiosity igniting between them. "To embrace both joy and sorrow together?" The crowd murmured in response, uncertain yet eager. Clara looked at those expectant faces. They were ready, but at what price? In that moment, Clara knew she had to lead them further. They stood on the cusp of a revelation, but clarity often came at a cost. What truths would they uncover? And how would they handle the memories that started to stir within those walls? As Clara stared into the photo, a question echoed in her mind. Could they emerge from this journey united in strength? Or would they unearth fragments that could shatter their newfound solidarity? They stood at the threshold of the unknown. What would rise from the depths of their past? The crowd leaned in as Clara's fingers lingered on the cold glass, her heart racing with anticipation. The photo seemed to pulse with its own life, pulling them into a narrative buried within the faded frame. She glanced around, catching the eyes of those around her. Some were filled with curiosity, others with fear. "Let's not just look," Clara spoke, her voice cutting through the tension. "Let's delve into our stories together. This isn't merely about history, it's about who we are now." The man who had shared his idea earlier stepped forward, his expression earnest. "What if we start with the person in this picture? Maybe they hold a key to understanding our journey." Clara nodded, feeling the weight of her responsibility deepen. "Right. We need to find out who they were, what they faced, and how their story resonates with us." The hands of the crowd began to reach out to other photos along the walls, as if sensing the essence of shared pain and joy whispered through time. Clara felt the energy shift again. They were no longer passive observers, but active participants ready to breathe life back into forgotten narratives. As they discussed potential names and connections, a woman near the back spoke up, her voice quavering but gaining strength. "I think I know this person. Her name was Evelyn. She fought for her family despite so many hardships." Whispers of recognition spread through the room. Clara's ears perked up. What hardships? What made her fight? The woman took a deep breath. She lived in a time when dreams were often denied. But she didn't give up. She rallied her community, showed them their worth. She was a voice for the voiceless. Clara felt the familiar pang of inspiration tugging at her heartstrings. We can honor her legacy. That voice, the unity she fostered. We can reignite that spirit in ourselves. Excitement rippled through the group, their excitement pushing doubt aside. Clara scanned their faces. She didn't want anyone to slip back into uncertainty again. "Let's share our stories next," just like Evelyn would have wanted. As each story unfolded, Clara's heart swelled. There were tales of struggle, of love lost and found, of small victories that held monumental significance. Each account was a thread, weaving a tapestry of shared resilience. But beneath the surface, Clara sensed a current of fear clinging to the edges of their words. A fear of what the truth could reveal. The first woman, Teresa, hesitated as she began to speak. "I lost my brother years ago. He was like a beacon of hope in my life, and I often wonder if sharing this hurt will only bring more pain." "Speaking your truth doesn't diminish your pain. It honors it," Clara reassured her, reaching out to hold her gaze. Together we can create something beautiful from it. As Teresa shared her story, the room watched intently, captivated by the vulnerability that flowed through her words. Clara felt the collective heart of the crowd beat louder, pounding with understanding and compassion. Each revelation added another layer of unity, yet the chill of uncertainty lingered. Then, a low voice broke through the chorus of memories. It was the tall man again. What if we open up wounds that are too deep? What if sharing these stories divides us instead of bringing us together? His words hung heavy in the air. Clara's pulse quickened as she recognized the unspoken fears surfacing among the crowd. Would they be able to face their truths without tearing apart the fragile bond they were forming? Every wound holds a lesson, she implored. We must face the darkness to find the light, but are we ready to embrace that? The room held its breath as Clara's question echoed. She felt the weight of their unexamined fears, knowing they were at a crucial juncture. The lantern flickered, its light dimming momentarily, as Clara looked into the photo again, the unknown face challenging her to keep pushing forward. As the crowd reflected, Clara silently vowed to be their guide through the shadows. But as hope mingled with trepidation, another question loomed. Would the truths they unearthed strengthen them, or uncover fractures they hadn't anticipated? The whispers of the past beckoned. What would they choose to embrace? The atmosphere inside the dimly lit space was thick with anticipation. Clara could feel the electric pulse of uncertainty thrumming beneath the surface. She was aware that they stood on the brink of something monumental, yet a tiny whisper of fear nagged at her heart, the risk of revealing wounds that might never heal. "Are we ready to share our truths?" Clara asked, her voice steady but gentle, as she gazed around the room. "This is our chance. Together, we can create a brighter future, but first, we must clear the shadows of our past." Teresa's eyes shimmered with a mix of bravery and vulnerability. "I'll go next," she said, taking a deep breath. Clara instinctively stepped closer to her, hoping to offer silent support. As Teresa spoke, her words flowed like a river, filled with both sorrow and solace. She recounted her brother's vibrant life, the laughter they shared, and the deep bond that had been severed by tragedy. Clara watched as the emotion washed over the listeners, some wiping away tears, while others held tighter to their own memories. "If I can be brave enough to share this," Teresa concluded, her voice trembling slightly, "then maybe others can too. Maybe we'll find strength in each other's pain." Clara's heart soared. This was the essence of community, love and empathy fueling courage. One by one, others began to chime in, each sharing their stories of struggle, loss, and hope. Each revelation stitched them closer together, creating a fabric of resilience against the fears that threatened to break them apart. Yet among the auras of togetherness, Clara remained aware of the tall man watching, skepticism etched in every line of his face. His earlier doubts lingered like a storm cloud, ready to unleash rain on their moment of clarity. "Enough of this sentimental nonsense," he interjected, his voice slicing through the air. "You really think spilling your feelings will make a difference? This world knows no compassion." The room fell silent, the warmth of connection momentarily snuffed out by his chilling words. Clara saw grimaces of doubt surfacing, fear creeping back into the hearts that had just opened. She stepped forward, unwilling to allow his negativity to extinguish the light they were building together. "Don't listen to him," Clara shouted, her voice ringing clear. "Yes, the shadows are real, but so are our stories. Our truths give us power, and power breeds change. We are the change we seek." Determination swelled among the crowd, echoing her fierce declaration. The flickering lantern above glowed brighter with each heartbeat, a testament to the shared energy that crackled through the room. But then the unfamiliar face from the photograph captured Clara's attention again. It seemed imbued with life, silently urging her to dig deeper, to embrace the fears rather than shy away from them. Who was Evelyn? Clara asked, her mind racing. What if we explored her story further? How did she face her challenges? What can we learn from her journey? The crowd exchanged looks of curiosity. The fear of vulnerability seemed to dissolve as they collectively leaned into exploration. That singular curiosity united them. Each story became a stepping stone through doubt, building a bridge to understanding. As they shared more about Evelyn, others connected the dots to their own lives. Clara encouraged them to draw parallels, linking past pain to present hopes. That light of anticipation flickered through the room again, as they realized they were tracing their history, empowering each other. Evelyn didn't just fight for herself. She fought for the lives of many. She turned her pain into purpose, someone said, their voice steady. Maybe we need to do the same. Yes, Clara affirmed, her heart racing. Let's carry her legacy forward. Our stories hold the weight of truth, and we can transform that into a movement. What if we took this spirit beyond these walls? Together, we can rally our communities and fight for real change. A murmur of excitement spread through the crowd. The boldness of their newfound purpose swelled, a shimmering light of hope refracting in every corner of the room. Clara felt the energy pulse around her, stronger than ever, as they began to envision a future free from shame. Yet she sensed the tall man's presence looming heavy in the background, an anchor threatening to drag them back down. She turned to him, undeterred. What are you so afraid of? Clara challenged. Are you afraid of this community, of our power? For a moment everything seemed to pause, the room hanging on the precipice of change. Clara held her breath as she witnessed his expression twisting, uncertainty bubbling beneath the mask he'd worn for so long. Perhaps it is time for the past to inform our future, the man said begrudgingly, his voice dipped in hesitation. But only if you can truly enact change. Clara's heart surged with hope. That's all I'm asking. Let our stories be a starting point. Everything we've shared today is just the beginning. Together we can create a movement that redefines our community and addresses the very injustices we face. As the murmurs of agreement began to ricochet, Clara looked around at her inspired neighbors. Hands were raised, people nodding resolutely, ready to take the next step. The walls around them seemed to pulse with a new vibrance, sparking a shared promise of action that would spread beyond this single moment. Clara breathed in deeply, gripping this newfound light. She knew they were just getting started. Within the warmth of unity lay the beginnings of something extraordinary. Let's do this, she shouted. Let's take back our stories and share them with the world. Who's with me? Hands shot up across the room, a chorus of voices rising in agreement as they echoed her enthusiasm with shouts of their own. Hope swelled stronger than the looming uncertainty, a tide that seemed unstoppable. The door that sprang them into this unknown was no longer a threshold of fear. It became a gateway to possibility. A vibrant future awaited them, bathed in the glow of resilience fueled by shared experiences. With hearts ablaze, Clara led them back toward the ballroom, determined to face the world, ready to forge a new narrative together. This was more than just a beginning. It was a revolution born of stories and dreams, ready to resonate in every corner of their lives. The foundation of change would hold firm, forged by unity and held together by the power of hope. They stepped forward, not just as individuals, but as a force destined to ignite enduring impact, reminding the world that the power of stories could light even the darkest paths. And Clara, with her heart full of courage, knew this was only the start. It was testimony that their voices mattered. Together they would rise and fight for a brighter tomorrow. Now was their moment to reclaim everything they've dreamed of, and to awaken the world beyond their door. Subscribe immediately to not miss the next exclusive stories that will inspire and captivate you. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help this message spread far and wide. Comment your reactions and feelings about this powerful ending, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let's spread this light together. Don't wait, not even one more second. Show your support for this channel and those brave voices ready to change the world.